I've had. Hello, my friends. Coach Nikki. I am here in Lake Tahoe. Just got back from an amazing trip to Peru where we volunteered at the local hospitals and just had an absolutely amazing time. But it is great to be back. I have missed my Friday talks with you guys and really excited today to talk about hormone balancing. So, if you've been on these Friday talks before, this is probably not something that is new because for me, I'm really passionate about regulating our hormones and understanding the magnificent up and downs that we have going through our lives when it comes to hormones, male and female. And that the more that we learn about how to balance our hormones in lots of different ways, the better we feel and the happier we are and the more connected we are. And we're just all in all more joyful and more resilient, more able to really just kind of feel better in life. Okay. Yay. So, hi, everyone. Welcome to Jump On. I'm going to start again because some of you had just jumped on. So, if you're just jumping on, hello, hello. I'm Nikki. I'm here in Lake Tahoe. And today we are talking about balancing our hormones. Incredibly passionate about this because I really feel like our hormones they can cause havoc in our lives. They can cause weight gain, depression. They can uproot great relationships that we have, but they can also really help us in feeling calm and serene and sleeping well and our metabolism and all of that good stuff. So if you're just jumping on, grab a pen, grab a piece of paper, type in where you're calling in from. So I always go back and I read the comments. If you are logging in on from like either YouTube or from our Kaya app or from Facebook, I go back and make sure that I answer any questions and just really want to speak to what is your concerns and how I can be really helpful to you. So we have a lot to cover. I'm going to go over 6 pillars of balancing our hormones, but I first want to start with some questions for you because sometimes it is a little bit confusing to know what to ask for from your healthcare providers when it comes to like blood draws, when it comes to what supplements should I take, when it comes to what is it that I can do to balance my hormones. So when you go to, or if you go to, you might be just fine, or maybe you can do some little changes and the things that we're going to talk about, and maybe you don't need to talk to your healthcare professionals about it. But if you're having issues, it's important that when you go to them, you kind of understand yourself where you're sitting in like the sea of hormones. And the first thing that I like to ask is, how are you right now compared to previous times in your life? So if you are 20, how are you compared to when you are first like menstruating or first hitting adolescence if you're a male? If you are 30, are you feeling different than when you were 20, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90? I want you to kind of think about like in general, and I'm going to go through the pillars. And as I'm talking, just kind of rate yourself on how you're doing in these specific pillars. Because through this conversation, what I would like it to be is a real self-realization of how you're feeling right now, and then what you can do to either like clarify to your healthcare providers of what you need and what tests you need, or just bring more realization to yourself that you can dive into a greater level from this talk, because this is obviously like a tip of the iceberg. We can't talk for 20 minutes and solve hormonal problems, but we can definitely open the door to the conversation and help you navigate a better conversation with yourself, a better conversation with the people who love you, and a better conversation with your healthcare team to make sure that you're getting what you need as far as hormone health and hormone balance. So that's my first question is how are you right now? So just give yourself like a 1 to 10 with the 6 pillars that we're going to talk about comparatively to a decade ago, comparatively to in your 20s, in your 30s, when you were feeling like really good. And maybe you're feeling better because you've actually put in the work to regulate your nutrition, regulate your sleep, regulate your exercise, all of these things. So as I'm asking you these questions, give yourself 1 to 10 on how you're feeling in the 6 pillars. So how are you feeling with your nutrition? So not necessarily, because we'll dive into like what to eat, when to eat, why to eat, all that kind of stuff. But in general, are you digesting well? Like, do you feel when you eat food, do you feel like a plummet in your energy, or do you feel more energized? Do you feel bloated after you eat, or do you feel like that food is like proper fuel for your energetic levels? How are you doing with like different food allergies? What's happening with your nutrition? So just in general, big, broad question, give yourself 1 to 10. How are you feeling with your nutrition and how it's assimilating in your body and making you feel day to day? Okay. Question number 2 is, and you can always come back to these, of course, because I talk fast. I flow through these quickly because I have a little bit of time with you and I want to dive into a lot of things. So hopefully this is just going to prompt you to dive into it on a deeper level. Number 2 is exercise. So how is exercise feeling to your body? Again, we're going to get into the details of how to exercise properly for hormone balance, but I want to ask you, when you exercise, are you recovering well? Are you excessively sore? Does it feel like it creates inflammation? Or when you exercise, does it like release the serotonin and make you feel happy? How often are you exercising? Are you motivated to exercise? How's your energy with exercising? How's your state of well-being? So again, give yourself just like a 1 to 10 on your exercise. Stress. So this is a hot topic with all of us. Everybody talks, especially through the pandemic and all the things that we've gone through, is how's your stress? How are your adrenals? Are you sleeping well at night? We're going to actually talk about sleep next, but your stress level affects a lot of different things in your body. And we can't avoid stress. Like stress is just going to happen. Life, that's just life, right? Life's going to give you up and downs. But are you able to move through it without having excessive anxiety, excessive loneliness, excessive sad? How are you dealing with stress on a 1 to 10? Okay, now we're going to rate ourselves. And if you're just jumping in, just jump straight in. You can rewind and listen to it later on replay. If you're watching it replay, just write replay and you'll get the recorded version on YouTube. But just jump right in, grab a pen, grab a piece of paper, and rate yourself on your sleep. So how quickly do you fall asleep at night? Do you wake up with interrupted sleep? How do you, when you wake up in the morning on like a level of 1 to 10, do you feel rested? Do you feel like, or exhausted? So kind of just rate yourself on your sleep and how you're feeling when you go to sleep. Like, are you excited to go to sleep? Do you feel cozy? Do you fall asleep quickly? Or do you get a little bit of anxiety? Does your mind start wandering? Throughout our sleep? Are you going to the bathroom often at night? Are you waking up at the kind of that witching hour and not able to go back to sleep? So these are all questions that I'm going to ask you, but you can take to your healthcare professionals and say, hey, my sleep is not as good as when I was in my 20s. My stress level is higher than it has ever been. Or, maybe my sleep is awesome and it's doing really well. So these are questions that you're going to ask yourself that you're going to share with other people so then we can make sure to prescribe to you the right prescription to balance your hormones. Next is your family and your friends. Give yourself like rating of 1 to 10, how well connected you are with other people in this world. When you're thinking about like Are you comfortable having conversations? Are you feeling isolated or lonely? Is there life changes that are happening? Separations in your life? Like so just rating yourself how you're feeling right now, with your friends, with your family, with the connections with other people. Next is spirituality. That comes in many different forms for a lot of different people. But what I know for sure is that we are all connected in such a greater way. And when we think about spirituality, whatever resonates with you, that's my question, is how are you doing with your spirituality? Are you taking time to meditate, to pray? Do you feel connected to something greater than yourself? Do you feel, again, when we're really connected spiritually, our hormones are in better balance, our life is in better balance. When we're disconnected, when we feel lonely, when we feel isolated, when we don't have enough time in nature, when we don't have enough time with people, um, we can really take our hormones for a big loop. So my last is, I want to ask you how you're feeling with your connection to the greater source, with your connection to the trees and to yourself and to all the things that life has to offer. Okay, so that's our quiz, 1 to 10, on those 6 pillars. So you're going to write it down and just assess yourself, like every, like, whatever, once a month, once a week, like, hey, how am I doing with these things? And if they get off, don't let them get so far off that you're in a state of a 1, a 2, or a 3, because we've neglected to be self aware and we've neglected to ask these questions that are really important when it comes to hormone balance, hormone health, and just living a great life. So, as I go through these foundations, I 3 to 6 months. So when you want to go in and you want to get these like markers done, you can ask your healthcare provider, but just, really make sure first that they're intrigued and that they've studied hormone health and that they know what tests to ask, what tests to, like, what labs to draw, and then don't be afraid to look around and add someone else. It doesn't mean that you need to kick someone out of your healthcare team, but maybe you just need to add a naturopath. Maybe you need to add somebody who is an expert in hormone balancing and can really help you navigate this wide world from puberty all the way, to the end of our lives, male or female. Females are more complicated, but this hormone regulation. So I really like to know, if I'm helping you in your health and your results and your nutrition and your exercise. I like to know where you are right now. So if you've had a blood panel drawn, I like to see, like, what are your vitamin D levels? What are your vitamin B levels? How are your adrenals functioning? Where are you in your hormonal cycle? So then I can really look and kind of give you more like unique advice on how and what to do. So what I'm talking about, is very vanilla. It's very at the top of the depth when it comes to hormone balancing, but it will be really helpful. So I'm going to start with food, because food is the number one thing that you can do to really balance your hormones. And little micro changes over a long amount of time is where you're going to get the most benefits. So doing these like crash diets, doing starvation diets, doing things like cutting out all carbohydrates, or whatever, all of the kind of like ups and downs of dieting cause a lot of havoc on our balance of our hormones. Like, as women, Our hypothalamus is very sensitive, our progesterone and estrogen, and especially if you are thinking about having a baby or you're kind of moving into that world, it's really important that we're gentle with our food, but we really want to, of course, focus on as much whole foods as possible, eating as many vegetables as we can because those have a lot of micronutrients, and then start diving into maybe the idea of like intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting is just taking a break. We've done this in Kaya for the last 20 years, is we've talked about stop eating 3 to 4 hours before you go to bed, let your pancreas take a rest, let those insulin levels come down, let your natural cortisol drop, and then let that melatonin start rising. So then you get more restful sleep, but you're not digesting as you're sleeping, because as you're sleeping, your hormones are starting to regulate, your body is cleaning, your brain is like, there's actually like a cleansing and a rinsing of your brain, and all of this helps your hormone balance. So if you're like on your period, it's important to sleep more that week before you start your period. It's really important to give yourself that rest, not push really hard. Be gentle, of course, still exercise, still go to your exercise classes or Kai, but just take it easy. Take a step back and listen to your body. So when it comes to your food, intermittent fasting is just taking a longer break. The longer the fasts, especially like when you're going into, it's tricky with women. Like you don't want to fast like a man. Men can do this intermittent fasting, lose tons of weight, and feel absolutely great with intermittent fasting. Where sometimes with women, with our hormone functions, we can not feel so great, and we can kind of put ourselves into this like unrest. So I'll do like a whole show on intermittent fasting. If you're interested, please type it in, and I can do it soon. But just know it's good for all of us to stop eating 3 hours before we go to bed. And then when you wake up in the morning, don't eat till you're hungry. Give yourself that little break. That's good for our hormones. It's good for cleansing. And it can be really helpful. So when we're thinking about our food, thinking about your omegas, so the algae, the like really you. I do take a omega supplement. I also add chia seeds to almost everything, hemp seeds. You can just Google like the things that are really high in omega-3 fatty acids, pumpkin seeds. So just including foods with those really good omegas help balance our hormones no matter where we are. A lot of times as we go through like menopause, or when we go through like our hormonal shifts, we need more of the good stuff than when we feel really balanced. So when you're feeling off, you're feeling cranky, maybe you want to add some ashwagandha, maybe you want to add some maca, some of these like ancient roots that have been used for thousands of years to help naturally regulate your hormones in the food that you eat. So when you're thinking nutrition is eat regularly, try not to snack too much, have like 4 hours in between your meals. Again, if you're feeling off, it's better to restrain a little bit from incessant snacking, especially on processed foods, and really focus on warming natural foods, that like more soups, smoothies, steel cut oats with lots of like really great foods in them, that make you feel balanced and calm. So nutrition, yikes, we always we run so close, so close with time. I wish I could be with you guys forever. So food, then as we're thinking about our exercise, exercise is equally as important. You should be doing resistance type exercise at least 3 to 4 days a week, and then walking and getting your heart rate up for 150 to 180 minutes per week. So, and that's like heavy breathing. It's not easy to have a conversation. Doing resistance training, when you work on your big muscles like your glutes and your back, it actually helps increase your natural testosterone levels, which increases your energy, your vitality, your strength, your sex drive, all of those things. So working those big muscles, working your posture, your pelvic floor is really important, male and female, is there's so much like blood flow. And a lot of times when we sit too much, we have blood restriction. When we don't do like our lower transverse abdominal exercises, that has a huge play into hormone disruption. So when you're thinking about your exercise, just show up consistently. Find something fun that you like, but find challenge. Like it's really good to be challenged. So find your challenge. Do a regular exercise class. It's really great to have a coach be able to look at you. You can always join me live stream on Fridays at 9 a.m. It's free. You can bring a friend. You can sign up on our Kaya Fit app. You can come. I can help you and look and watch and help you with your form, but find a coach that really cares about you. Strengthen your pelvic floor, strengthen those big muscles, because all of that is going to be a really important key to balancing your hormones. Next is stress. Like I was talking about before, we're more stressed than ever, but it is, even though stress is inevitable in life, there's really great things that we can do to take it down a notch. So I always and often think about like in the wild is like there's a beautiful deer and she's like grazing and eating, and here comes a lion and her adrenals and everything spikes and she's like, ah, fight or flight, and she runs, and then she runs fast enough to save her little life. The lion goes away and she quickly calms down. That is a positive stress. We're going to have positive stress in our life. We're going to have negative stress in our life. It's inevitable. But how you deal with it, if you're like this all day long and you're reminiscing about that lion that almost ate you all day long and you're telling everybody else about it and you're stirring up just all of this conversation in your head, that's called chronic stress. And that wreaks havoc on our hormones. So as often as you can, notice, hey, I'm stressed. My stomach is hurting. I'm feeling butterflies. My shoulders are up to my ears. I don't feel good. Okay, what can I do? I can take a big breath. I can try to go outside and look at the sun. I can take myself out of the situation, even if it's just for a second. I can even go into the bathroom and shut the door and take a breath. I just make a list of like 7 things that make you happy, maybe listening to different music, maybe a podcast, just connecting to somebody awesome. So just write those 7 things down and then have those in your back pocket. So when everything in your life starts like crunching in on you, you have tools that can take you down, even if it's just a couple minutes, that can take your stress down. Sleep is, I keep saying like, no, this is the most important. No, this is the most important. If you're not sleeping, you're going to be a mess. It is what it is. And sometimes our hormones are it's like the chicken or the egg. Sometimes our hormones are keeping us up at night because our progesterone levels are dropping. Maybe it's causing us sleep apnea. Maybe it's causing us just like these hormonal imbalances. But there are things that you can do to help your sleep. Blackout, so make sure your room is dark. I sleep with eye masks. If you're having sleep apnea, this is like a weird thing, and you're gonna be like, "What are you talking about, Nikki?" But you can tape your lips shut. So just go to Amazon and put like I think it's like lip tape or something. But it actually, if you're mouth breathing, it causes sleep apnea, and so it can help you. And if you're stuffy, obviously you're gonna have to kind of work your way through that. You should use like a neti pot to clear your sinuses. But there are things that you can do to help your sleep. And like sleep, like prescription sleep. I'm not saying that anything's wrong, but there are side effects. So try everything else first. So try the dark room, try no electronics at night, turning off everything, low light. Light in the morning is good. It increases that cortisol. Less light in the evening is better because it decreases our cortisol. It increases our natural melatonin and helps us sleep more comfortably. Listening to meditating is really important. So just getting a sleep ritual and sticking to it. And then if you do wake up in the middle of the night, don't freak out about it. Just think about, like, you don't always have time to meditate in the day, so meditate at night. Uh, just breathe, think about your toes, think about your ankles, like just bring gratitude to your life, to your body, and then let yourself meditate deeply, because that also can give you benefits just as sleep does. So don't freak out. Just know this too will pass. You're going to fall back asleep. Hopefully, you can go to sleep a little earlier. Maybe you can sleep in a little bit more, but try to be consistent with your sleep time as well. Okay, so family and friends, your connection to other people is incredibly important. We are not meant to be alone in this world. We are meant to be deeply connected. And really nurturing relationships with other people is going to lower your cortisol levels, is going to increase your serotonin. It's going to help regulate your hormones. All of these are hormones, and it's just going to make you feel better. So, our job as human beings is to seek out people who feed our soul and feed their soul. So, not just what can you do for me, but what can I do to help other people feel better, to feel loved by me, to send them love notes, to say you're thinking about them, to do random acts of kindness. All of the things that you think, like when you're thinking about like your significant other or your families, it's sometimes we get in like little stages of like, why aren't you doing the dishes? Or why aren't you helping me with this? Or why aren't you helping me with that? Where if we can turn it around and say, how can I love you more? How can I give you as much as I possibly can? Because that comes back to you. It makes them feel happier. You're helping them regulate their hormones, and then that will turn back to you. So asking as much as possible, how can I love my people greater? What can I do to love my people? Okay, spirituality, nature, getting out into this big, beautiful world, and then just connecting as much as you can, at least a couple times a day, getting outside, sitting, and like I said, whatever that is to you, if it's prayer, if it's going for a walk by yourself, turning off your music, turning off everything, and then just being grateful for that connection to our planet, to the sky, to the mountains, to the universe, to God, to whatever it is that makes you feel connected in a greater level. Maybe it's church, maybe it's prayer, but I know for sure that we are more than ourselves. And when we are connected to the wind and to the sun, our hormones balance by themselves. We naturally crave better food. We want to move our body. We want to exercise. We want to hug people more. We want to sleep better. All of it plays into one another, like a beautiful life puzzle. And sometimes it's a mosaic, right? Sometimes our whole life is destroyed and everything is crunched up, and we have to kind of pull it together in all of these like little pieces. But when life gets hard is when you really have to double down on all of this. If you're going through hormonal changes and you feel horrible, double down on what you need to do, because I can promise doing these things feels hard, but living a life of imbalance is way worse. And just finding that like break of the chains in whatever way that you can is going to bring you so much more peace and balance and love and connection in this world. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I love each and every one of you. The pillars that we talked about for balancing is, first, just self-assessment. How are you doing, and how do you navigate a conversation with your healthcare providers to make sure that you're getting the labs that you need? Ask yourself, like, what can I do with food, exercise? How am I connecting with like reducing my stress, sleeping more, connecting with my people, and just increasing that spirituality as much as you possibly can. I wish you a beautiful and wonderful day. I hope to see you in my live stream workouts or in studio workouts. We created Kaya to be something that is not just to help help you exercise, but really feel and help you feel connected to the people, to yourself, and just live your best life. So, love you guys. Have an awesome day. Bye.